Welcome back to Battlegrounded, episode 6, with me, your host, Martin. I feel like I'm really hitting my stride with these. I feel like I'm having fun with them. I hope you're enjoying them too. This is another episode where I'm going to take you to something which I think is interesting. On this, I'm going to show you Ferry Pier, this area down in the southwest sort of edge of the map. I think it is a really cool little town. For lots of reasons, not just because it's got the ferry pier, it's actually got two piers, but also just the way that it's laid out. It's a multi-leveled little area which sort of reveals itself to you as you come over the hill, which in fact I'm going to go back outside of town right quick and just show you it from the road. So first things first, this is one of the major roads that runs around the southwestern edge of the map. You can see there's a vehicle spawn there already. And if you want to go almost anywhere in this area of the map, you're probably going to be taking this road. In order to get to Ferry Pier, then there isn't one of these major roads leading off it. Like in some areas, like let's compare to, say, Zaki, where you have quite a few major roads running through it. You know, you have two separate bits that you can get to. Or Severny, where you've got the two big bits. There is no road running directly up to it, up to Ferry Pier. Only dirt tracks, which are kind of weirdly shaped, and honestly, when you're barreling along being shot at, you're unlikely to actually, you know, take these. You're just going to bounce over the hill, which is an interesting and a cool way to approach the town, I think, because you come up over the hill, and at first it looks like there's just one. Obviously, you probably know there's stuff here, but then more and more buildings sort of unfold themselves to you as you come over the hill, which I think is just a, you know, it's not like, wow, amazing, there's a town, but I think it's striking, you know, and I think it's interesting, both from a design standpoint, what it says about this place. You know, it's built down towards the harbour, towards the dock, but also from a game designer, a gameplay standpoint. It means you have lots of little hills, lots of little bits of cover you can duck behind, lots of little trenches. If you hear someone coming in, you can duck down here and sort of peer up over, see them. If you're in third person, even if you're in first person, then you can sort of go like that, and that's very cool. A lot of the houses here, you've got two, maybe three, I think there might be another one, of these sort of barn-like houses, which is a type of house I like a lot anyway. I think they're just well designed. As you come inside, there's lots of doors to open, lots of potential looting spots, there's a couple of bedrooms. You know, it feels to me like a converted barn, but like not fully converted, because there's kind of all this crap in the loft, which is you know, I think primarily a game design thing, but also up in the loft, which is the place that you'll probably wind up hiding if you do find yourself taking shelter in one of these buildings. Then you've only got a very restricted line of sight, which is out these windows. And people can potentially, it doesn't happen often, but people can pull up, jump up on top of that, and jump through this window. So it's not quite as safe as it might initially feel, which I think is a nice feature, honestly. I like that. So that's enough about these houses. I got a little sidetrack there. So you go down through Ferry Pier, the town. There's lots of little walls and fences and things, so you probably will abandon a vehicle quite high up. You're unlikely to barrel your vehicle right the way through unless you're feeling really determined. Plane coming straight over. I'm not going to show you how to loot crates again. Let's just let that pass. There we go. Okay, so that's gone by now. And as you go further down through town, then you find more and more evidence of this being a fishing town. And evidence of it not just being a fishing town, but like I think it feels recreational in a weird way, if that makes sense. You know, you get these like rowboats. This area feels to me like rowboat hire. You know, they rent them to people and then go out into the ocean, or this little estuary kind of area that runs between the main island and Sosnovka. It feels like a fun area that people would have come before whatever happened that drove everyone out of here. I have to say, I know they have released some lore about this island, and little bits and bobs about, it's you know, it was driven out and was part of a major experiment or whatever. I sort of hope they don't release too much more, you know? I don't really want too much more information. I like this being a place that feels both real and kind of artificial. I like that it's built out of assets that they've bought or reused from elsewhere, and that it feels a little bit more cobbled together but with a clear game design goal. I think that makes it feel very complete in an interesting way. You know, it doesn't feel like it doesn't uncanny valley you, you know? I don't feel wandering around this place that I'm 5 minutes from when it was a living, breathing city. It feels like somewhere which, you know, you might have a Battle Royale game in, because it's kind of abandoned. I think it also strikes me the fact that a lot of the theming is, you know, Eastern European, at least on this map. You know, sort of playing off like old Soviet bloc architecture, stuff like that. It strikes me as exactly how clear its gaming lineage is, even though it's made by, if my understanding is correct, a South Korean team with the lead designer Brendan, I can't recall his last name, apologies, is Irish. It feels to me like it's taking very strongly from a lot of Russian and Eastern European game design studios, specifically, you know, the people who made Arma. Obviously it started life as an Arma mod, and has appeared in a couple of other places. Games like Stalker, Metro. I'm trying to think of others. I'm not a big buff of the genre, but I think it is a interesting, you know. I think it speaks more to the lineage of the type of game that they were trying to create, rather than a specific comment on, you know, Soviet architecture or the Eastern Bloc or anything like that. Which is interesting. You know, I think that speaks to how messages kind of get mangled over time and how things change their significance. Not the most startling revelation in the world, but still something that I think is worth keeping in mind when you write analysis of this game. You know, I think it's not particularly interesting to analyse this as a comment on you know, Eastern European, you know, grim isolationism or you know, the Soviet Union or the you know, the failures of communism or, you know, whatever else. It's not really a comment on that. I mean, it can be if that's how you want to read it, but to me it reads much more as like an intertextual thing. You know, it's riffing off other games that have used this playstyle rather than trying to make something which you know, comments on that directly. That's my reading. You might disagree. I think that's completely reasonable. I'll allow that. I have to say, this has been a very quiet video so far, which I think is cool. I tend to sort of, I feel like I alternate between ones where I get murdered immediately and ones where I sort of wander around a fairly quiet zone. Let's just wander down here onto the beach. So, as I already said, we've got this area which to me feels like canoe rental, place where you go boating out into the bay. Which, another minor note, these garages, this particular asset appears all over the map. It's just about everywhere, but in different ways in different places. So here for me, even though it's got, you know, parking bays painted into it, this feels like it's supposed to be where all those boats are stored overnight, you know? They've all been left out. Another aside, you sometimes find areas where there's a really loud fly buzzing sound effect. I would be interested to figure out, you know, where those are. It's in some houses, it's in some places outdoors. I don't think it's randomized. I think it seems to be in the same sort of places. That you've got one here as well. I'm wondering if that's I would like to get to know some things about the team who made this, because I bet that's one designer's trademark, and it's a thing that appears in a bunch of places that they put things. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but, you know, it feels like there's some personality behind that, which, you know, I always appreciate. So, that's about Ferry Pier. I did want to draw attention to the fact that there's this little outpost out here, which I've never actually been to. But it's an interesting spot. It's just another one of the little guard towers that I drew attention to when we went to Rojok a couple episodes ago. There's also this other minor little pier over here, which just goes a little way out to the ocean. Both of those, the circle can close up neatly on them, which is a really interesting fight because there's essentially no cover apart from diving into the water, and when you're in the water, if the circle is closed too far, you can't get out again, so you're just sort of stuck in there. Yeah, you've got this little house that faces out over the beach, although mostly onto that guard tower. Can't help but wonder if the guard tower belongs to the person who lives here, or if someone who lives up the way built that guard tower so they can keep an eye on their neighbour, who has this actually beautiful little house, and a little. You imagine if I don't know nothing about boats, obviously, but I understand. I'm going to show my ignorance here. The reason you have harbours that are all protected by walls is so that it's less choppy, so you can launch boats or store boats. This would be a great place for this person to keep their prize boat, because it's a little bit more sheltered, less likely to get hit by a storm if something comes in off the ocean. And then they can launch it out either way if they need to, or drag it up onto the beach if they need to. On the other hand, if a storm comes through, their house is pretty much done, so that's no good. Okay, I think that's Ferry Pier. A lot of water towers here. There's a good couple of them, which is just an observation. You've got these buildings, which at some point I'll probably do a little exploration of one of these buildings. I'm not going to do that today. What I am going to do is wander over towards the bridge and see what's going on over there, because I think the two major bridges from Sosnovka are fascinatingly designed things in and of themselves. I think having those two bridges is a really smart idea, and I've heard people suggest in Reddit threads and things like that you should have like a sandbar here which you can drive across or run across, which I don't disagree with, but I think it would take away from the fun of the bridges. The bridges are renowned for being, if you are trapped one side or the other and you have to cross them, then people will obviously camp on them with weapons and shoot you as you try to go across. Which, I think is an interesting obstacle. I think that's good. In a game as open as this, sometimes you need funnels to push people in certain directions. Oh, there's someone in a car. Let's see if they're going to come and try to mess with me. I hope not. Yep, looks like they're going to mess me up. Okay. So let's go and just have a little look at the bridge right quickly before they shoot me in the head. So you've got this bit of cover here, which is interesting. I'm just going to hide here for a moment. Wow, is that still them? Okay, well maybe oh no, there they are. Okay, maybe they haven't spotted me. That's cool. So you have this little bit of cover here, which if people are coming in this direction along the bridge, can be an interesting spot to camp up and sit and take shots, because you've got a little bit of back cover and a good level of front cover. However, you can easily get people coming up behind you, multiple directions. It's hard to defend. There are spots on the bridge which are essentially similar. There's one of the things about the bridge is it's one of those things which really feels like there's always a bigger fish, Any spot you can camp, someone can come up behind you, and then you're in not great shape. I'm just going to wander over here and have a look see what this person is all about. See if they want to kill me, see if they've got their mic on, see what's good. If I have to cut this suddenly, then just be aware. Okay, so they must have parked up here, and I know they're in this building. So let's just have a wander inside and see what's going on. Hey friend, are you in here? Anyone in here? Or is it all quiet? Let's wander around. See if they're upstairs? Probably upstairs. Hey! Oh, there they are. Okay, so failed to make a friend, but I did get to show you Ferry Pier, and I got to show you a little bit about the bridge. At some point I'll walk us clean across the bridge if I can, and show you some of the cool cover they've got on it. I'll also show you the bridge in Georgopol at some point, because I think that's a really cool, interesting, kind of unique spot. Not a lot of people go there, I think, and I like it. So there is this person trying to loot my corpse, and they will be very disappointed to learn that I have absolutely nothing on me. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you next time.